morning. How the devil are you doing this fine day? Me? What is a technical term? Yes, knackered. I started work on a script for the third episode of our new Tech Foresights show last night. I made the mistake of researching the subject in question just before I went to bed. It's 3:45 this morning, and that research and the flow of the script was still going around in my head. If I look like I've nodded off at any point this morning, please just give me a nudge. Now, it is our penultimate show of the year, and it is therefore our penultimate prize giveaway of the year. And up for grabs today, a copy of that book written by yours truly. It's called Renaissance: Why JCB is the Apple of the Digger World. If you'd like to be in with a shout of winning that, all you need to do is basically follow the instructions that are now flowing across the foot of the screen. Just type JCB, all caps ideally. Doesn't really matter, but all caps looks better. Type that into the chat and you'll be in with a chance of winning that book. Let's have a look who's just joined us. Gary Muir has just joined the fray for the book. Ken Hatcher is making his excuses for tomorrow already. Not a problem at all. Let's have plenty of entries for the book this morning. The guest stroke victim of my latest podcast, Paul Latham, is in the house. Morning, Paul. Thank you very much indeed for being here. If you haven't had a chance to go and have a listen to that, any good podcast platform, go and listen to, or go and find Demolition News Radio, or easier still, just go straight over to YouTube, look for Demolition News there. It is currently the top video there. Let's have a look. I'm going to say a very quick good morning to John Fitzmaurice as well. I've actually sent an email off to a couple of your colleagues this morning, John. I'll tell you more about that off air, I think. Now, let me do some things. Yes, so if you want to find out if you won that book that is up for grabs at the moment, stick around for the end of the show and I'll tell you how. I may even tell you after the show how the book came into being. But first, without further ado, let me roll the intro, post the question of the day, and get this penultimate show on the road. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I'm your host, Mark Anthony. It is Thursday, the 22nd of December, and as that remarkably persistent and incredibly tired guy just said, welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony. In today's show, we're going to have a ripping time in some hard rock applications. We get up close with the latest Wacker Neuson wheeled excavator. We're looking back to the Volvo days, and we're looking ahead to the brand new video and audio podcast series, and we're looking even further ahead to ConExpo 2023, and we'll get to all of that in just a second. But first, let's see who among the rich and the shameless will be celebrating a birthday on this day of days, and probably therefore receiving a combined Christmas present and birthday present. Happy birthday! Let me see. It is many happy returns to composer Giacomo Puccini and to scientist and broadcaster James Burke. Anyone remember James Burke from back in the 70s? Happy birthday also to TV celebrity and helicopter lover Noel Edmonds. Met him once. And a helicopter. To BG Robin Gibb, to Deacon Blue singer Ricky Ross, and to singer Megan Trainor, who apparently is all about the bass. Many happy returns to them, one and all. Thankfully, here in the UK, we very rarely encounter proper hard rock. Oh, sure, there's a bit of granite sprinkled about here and there, but I once went to Geneva to see a Cat D11 equipped with a ripper tearing out rock in a city centre. And in other parts of the world, it's not unusual to encounter rock so hard that the only option is explosives, all of which is a bit of a shame for us here in the UK, because it means we don't get to see equipment like this. Can you imagine the forces going through a ripper like that? Proper feat of engineering. Unbelievable stuff. If today's show were to have a theme, I mean, it doesn't, but if it did, that theme would be yesterday, today, tomorrow, and the very near future. So let's start with a bit of yesterday. And I look back at my visit to Volvo Construction Equipment's headquarters up in Eskilstuna in Sweden. You may recall that I brought you my footage of that trip as soon as I got back, but I never showed you the Volvo version in which I make a brief and entirely forgettable cameo appearance.
Min upplevelse av EVR 130 var att det var en väldigt lättkörd, fin maskin, smidig. Jag är en bit över 1,90 men jag tycker ändå att jag hade väldigt bra plats i ytan.
I think the remote control option here on the EC300 is excellent. It's got so many uses in so many different applications. It could be a game changer. Having the option to put the operator away from dangerous conditions, absolutely perfect.
Hele opplevelsen med denne her er jo helt vanvittig. Det er du merker at det er mye krefter i en maskin her. Det er jo, du sitter godt og du har god oversikt, og den er helt vanvittig. Opterskiftfunksjonen blant annet er helt rå. Sitter og kommer med en god fart innover og bare en klikk på knappen og kjører for så vidt bare med joystick. Det er jo bare å klikke inn og så går ned og jobbe med det. Det er en fantastisk maskin.
Pirmais iespējas ir lielisks, jo šī ir lielāka mašīna nekā es esmu pieredzis strādāt, bet atšķirība praktiski nekādas nav. Ir viegli strādāt un, protams, patīkami, kā jau Volvo mašīnā. Aktīvu kontrolas lietoju pirmo reizi un iespējas ir ļoti patīkams, jo to var uzlikt, kā jūs varēja redzēt, to var uzlikt visādas slīpumus un ar vienas rokas kustību izdarīt to darbu, ko tu varbūt tik ļoti labi neproti, un tehnika izdara tavā vietā ļoti lielu darbu, lieliska funkcija.
I'm blown away with the electric range, to be honest. I've spent the last 2 and a bit years looking at these machines at a distance, watching them on YouTube and on Facebook, but now I've got to see them up close. The sound on that, it's virtually silent. I've just seen a mini excavator. Lightning fast, which I guess is appropriate for a machine that runs on electric.
Alors, en premier, c'est une machine vraiment immense. C'est la première fois que je conduis une machine de cette taille et de loin. C'est quelque chose quand même d'intéressant et qu'on n'a pas l'occasion tous les jours. Et j'avais jamais eu l'occasion de tester ou d'être assis dans une telle machine en mouvement. Et on pourrait croire que ça tremble, que ça bouge avec les gros cailloux qu'on peut soulever. Mais alors non, au final ça reste plutôt très stable même. Qui m'a surpris, c'est la force qu'on avait et puis le ressenti pour une pelleteuse de 55 tonnes. C'est une force qui est assez phénoménale. Et j'aurais pas pensé qu'on ait autant de puissance. Et tout en ayant une stabilité qui était honnêtement qui m'a beaucoup surprise et que je trouve très agréable. Honnêtement, j'ai testé beaucoup de pelleteuses aujourd'hui, tout était très bien, mais je peux dire que celle-là était ma préférée et celle que j'ai préféré tester.
I think as an outsider looking in, my impression over the last couple of years with Volvo is that they've gone above and beyond. Lots of companies have introduced electric machines, but with things like the Emma app, Volvo have just gone that stage further. To actually put the control and the management of a machine in the palm of an operator's hand is taking things to a completely new level.
That fella at the end almost sounded like he knew what he was talking about, didn't it? That trip really was one of my personal highlights of 2022, and I really, really hope that I get a chance to get back to Eskilstuna at some point again in the very near future. Now, bit of this. So that was a look back to yesterday. Bring it up to date. One of the brands that was most active, or has been most active in 2022, is the team at Wacker Neuson. They unveiled a whole new heap of equipment, and they had a terrific stand at Bauma 2022. And they've also dropped this. Yeah, really looking forward to seeing what the Wacker Neuson boffins come up with in 2023. A couple of bits I just want to address very quickly in the chat. Very much appreciated, Peter. Very professional in your interview, Mark. If you say so. Good morning to Ed Butler, who's just joined us. Morning, Ed. Thank you very much indeed for being here. We had a question now. There it is. Gary Muirhead. Any new sponsors coming up in 2023? Yes, we are. We are in talks with several. The issue that we have, and I'm just going to very, very quickly cover this. The issue that we have is that I think we've got the show to the length that it needs to be. And as you know, it generally goes content, advert, content, advert, content, advert. The show can only be so long because there is only so much content in the world. So while I would like more sponsors, we basically have to wait for the existing sponsors to fall off the end of the conveyor belt. One or two of them are about to do so, actually. So we will be working our way towards that. Just going to throw that one up very quickly. Al Grison is here. Hi, Mark. Hi, gang. In the car, he says. And as we all know, it is a Thursday. I think it's a Thursday, and therefore it is World Al Grierson Day. I hope you're celebrating that in the car, Al. Ed Butler has just said, now you're talking. I've had my EW100 for nearly 3 years. It's been flawless. A tremendous machine all round. I did get a look at the new one at Balmer. Thought it looked very impressive. Watch this space. I will be watching this space with considerable interest. Don't forget to type the word JCB or the letters JCB into the chat. The book is still up for grabs. That's what it looks like. I'll tell you the story of how it came to be in just a moment. But let's go with one of these instead.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
So we've done yesterday and we've done today, and it's now time to look to tomorrow. Well, the early part of next year anyway. If you were here yesterday, you may recall me moaning about the fact that I'd lost the video part of a brand new video and audio podcast series we're pulling together for early in the new year. Well, as it turns out, the video wasn't lost. It was merely misplaced. I did it. The pilot of that episode, or the pilot episode of that podcast, rather, which is called Demolition's Greatest Threat, is now in the can. You'll be pleased to hear. The pilot episode won't drop until we get back after the festivities, but I think you've all earned a pre-Christmas treat. So here is a sneak preview of that new show that is coming down the tubes. It's been described as the single biggest threat to the demolition industry. An amalgamation of academics, environmentalists, politicians, architects, and the national media attempting to slow, block, and even ban demolition to protect the so-called embodied carbon locked within the world's building stock. It's a campaign that is gathering traction and gaining momentum. Yet, even as the demolition sector finds itself in the crosshairs, the industry is failing to respond. It's failing to address the rising tide of anti-demolition feeling. It's failing to fully explain the key role that demolition plays in the development of infrastructure, housing, and the built environment. It is failing to highlight demolition's role at the very heart of the circular economy. And it is failing to explain that the demolition industry recycles, reuses, and repurposes what many perceive as a waste to provide the construction industry with vital materials, recycling at a rate that puts other industries to shame. As all of this unfolds, we will monitor and chart the current and future impact of the embodied carbon lobby upon the demolition sector. We will attempt to stay abreast of the construction projects held in planning or stopped entirely due to embodied carbon concerns. And we will try to explain precisely why an increasing number of high-profile and influential people believe, wrongly, that embodied carbon can only be preserved by a moratorium upon demolition. Yeah, the full version of that new show will be available in both video and audio form. So you can watch it on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. You can choose to listen or watch on Spotify, or you can just listen on any of the main podcast platforms and some of the not so main platforms as well. I'm going to come back to podcasts in the chat afterwards because that is actually our question of the day, but do keep an eye out and an ear out for that when we reconvene in the new year. And so it is now time to look a bit further into the distance, to March 2023, to Las Vegas and to ConExpo. And since they are both in the chat, this one goes out specifically to Ed Butler and Steve Williamson.
Where you got to be. All the decision makers are here, so that's why we come. Meeting these people person to person, you get to make a lot of really good connections, get a lot more information, being able to actually see what is offered.
I'm in awe. It's just amazing. It's massive. There are tons of things to look at. You can see a huge range of suppliers here.
Technology has come a long way. It's just amazing the stuff that they have.
All the manufacturers are here. We do business with a lot of these folks, and it's a way to meet them and get a personal contact.
Walking around, checking out auto machines. Of course, it's 2020, so you see everything that's new.
It's a marvel to see some of this stuff and just to know that it even exists. I just walked around the corner and I saw something I'd never seen before, never even knew existed.
You can buy anything, and the deals are pretty good too.
Probably the most phenomenal equipment show in the world. I would recommend everybody come if they can.
Yeah, if my trips to Sweden and Germany this year were highlights, I think it's safe to say the trip to ConExpo will be among the high points of 2023. You have roughly, 15 seconds to type the letters JCB, no spaces, JCB into the chat for your chance to win a copy of this written by this guy. We're about to draw it. If you don't respond very, very quickly, I'm going to throw it up on the screen and we're going to press the button and do what is necessary to find out who's won. Let's have a look. Put that up on the screen. We have 10 entries. I didn't see some of those come in, actually, so that's good news. So without further ado, as I say so regularly on this show, let's draw it and see who wins the book. Steve Williamson. Congratulations, Steve. You have yourself a copy of my book, Renaissance, Why JCB is the Apple of the Digger World. Let me have your address after this, Steve, and I will fire that off to you. Almost certainly won't get it to you in time for Christmas because postal strikes and stuff. But if I would do everything I can in my power to get it to you just as soon as I can, hopefully you can read that while you're away. And as he says, quite rightly, yippee. Yippee indeed. Maybe you won't be saying that when you've actually read it, but I will tell you more about the book when we reconvene on the other side. By the way, if you didn't win a copy of the book but would like to grab a copy for yourself, it is available for sale over on Amazon. You can find a link to it in the chat.
Sorry to interrupt the guy with the funny glasses, but if you're enjoying this video, please hit the like button as it helps our channel. Or better still, share this video with a friend or a colleague. Thank you. Right, back to Beardy.
Right, for the penultimate time this year, that pretty much wraps up this morning's show, or the main part of it anyway. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into the chat to see what you're all saying today. If you can't stick around for that, then please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends and your colleagues, particularly at this time of year. Have a great day, and thanks for watching. But if you do have the time and the inclination, and you'd like to know how that book came about, and whatever else you'd like, hopefully they will get to see that. If not, perhaps you can give them a dig in the ribs, because it is timely, as it were. I'm going to go very quickly through the chat, and then I'll get back to the book that Steve Williamson has just won. Ken Hatcher has Welsh weather, no great surprise there. But Gary Muirhead, morning Gary, thank you very much indeed for being here. There's our winner, bright and early, Steve Williamson. Congratulations, Steve. Mark Whiting is here as well. Who else is here? Nick Drew's in the house as well. Morning, Nick. I thought you were going to be taking some time off, and yet here you are, still supporting the show. Much appreciated. One more day to go. One more day for us as well. Not entirely sure what we're going to do tomorrow. The content bank is a little thick. It's empty. The cupboard is bare. I do have something that we might be able to do, but we might actually just have a quick show and just have a bit of a chin wag tomorrow. We'll see how all that pans out. Not sure I'll be here tomorrow, says Ken Hatcher. Going for a site breakfast, so happy Christmas and happy New Year's all, and to you as well, Ken. Thanks ever so much for being here pretty much every episode of the past couple of years. And thanks for your ongoing support as well. John Fitzmaurice, there he is. Morning, Mark. And all happy Christmas and all the very best for 2023. Yeah, absolutely. Roll on 2023. Going into the festive break with my tail well and truly up this year. The year before last, a great deal of uncertainty. Last year, kind of questioning whether I'd made the right decision to go all in on a video show and abandoning basically a 30-year career. This year, feeling pretty good about the world, actually. Peter Ferguson, hello folks, he says. Morning, Peter. Thank you very much indeed for being here. That was my question of the day, and a bit of a mixed response on this. Do you listen to podcasts? Steve Williamson says, I've never listened to one. Not sure if it's something I'd listen to. Perfect accompaniment for you in the cab of a machine, Steve, I have to say, but I'm not planning to try and win you over. Peter Ferguson says, I only very occasionally listen to podcasts. Fully understand that. Gary Muirhead on the flip side says, yes, I find them good companion on a long journey. That tends to be me. I listen to, I've kind of got a bit of a playlist going on these days. I listen to the short form content of about sort of 10 minutes or so, like a Peter Haddock content with media show. I tend to listen to those while I'm walking the dog or just out for a stroll or whatever it might be. I save the longer ones like Nigel Williams from the seat of the cab for the longer journeys, and for the really long ones I tend to take full-blown either audiobooks or proper in-depth podcasts, sort of a Joe Rogan type thing. Ken Hatcher rightly said that's a ripper. It most certainly is a Volvo tipper on steroids. Yeah, an absolute beast. Can you? I was only half joking. Can you imagine the forces going through that? You'd have to be pretty certain of your welds on a ripper like that, wouldn't you? Mark Whiting, yes, he does listen to podcasts. John Fitzmaurice, love the music in the Ripper video. See, it's a real. It's a mixed blessing, this job. I get to choose the music for a lot of these videos, and I am, as somebody that lived through the 80s and liked the likes of Ultravox and Human League and OMD and Kraftwerk and all of these people, and Gary Newman and all those sort of electronic synth bands. That is where I'm drawn. But when you've got a Ripper of that magnitude, it kind of feels like it needs rock, if you know what I mean. Steve Williamson, obviously a Volvo fan. Now we're talking. I have to say, I was a Volvo fan before I went to Eskilstuna, even more so now. Not just because of the equipment, although that does play obviously a very important part. But of all the major brands I've worked with this year, I would say that the fine folks at Volvo are among my top two. Working with Volvo and working with Liebherr has been an absolute pleasure this year. I hope to do some more of that in the new year. Gary Muirhead reaffirming his love for all things Steelrist, Volvo and Steelrist, perfect combination. Couldn't argue with that one iota. I'm Peter, thank you. Not so sure I agree, but there you are. I've already covered the sponsors, but yes, we are in talks. I think we're due to lose one of our current sponsors around about the middle of January, and then there's another one due to go out. I think it's the end of February. So, as I say, we're in talks to get more on board. Ed Butler has joined us. Morning, Ed. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Crab steer is really handy. Yeah, remember many years ago, back when I used to write about a wider range of plant, going to a press conference at a factory in Germany, where they'd put up a sign explaining the various steering modes on a crane. And one of them they had described as CRAP, C-R-A-P, CRAP steering. Didn't have the heart to point it out to them, but took a photograph, and the office enjoyed it enormously. That was my comment on the Wacker machine. When it's roading, I mean, literally some cruise control and all that kind of thing. Absolutely fantastic. Nice to see it's got a good lift eye, not a hook. Yeah, absolutely. Let's have a look. Who else have we got here? There's Ed talking about his EW100 as well. It's going to rattle through to the very end. Looking forward to seeing what Steve and Ed have up their sleeve for ConExpo. No rush for the book, probably just as well, given the postal strikes and the Christmas situation as well. Hi Mark, Lee is away from today but may respond. Dion is the new sales guy at Firewall and is in today. I'll drop him a line. Thank you very much indeed, John. Lee Palmer is the new director of Reacton and Firewall. Started with us around the end of September. Ex-Leapair employee. Yeah, indeed. Had a chat with them just a day or two ago. And as I say, dropped them a line this morning. Would quite like them to see what that line is. So, going back to the book. See this? So, it's called Renaissance, Why JCB is the Apple of the Digger World. So, there I was, I don't know, what was it, 5-6 years ago, when JCB pulled the curtain back on the Hydra digger. And I was very impressed. Very impressed. And said as much. Was impressed not just with the fact that it was a very smart looking machine, but the fact that JCB had gone away, taken a look at what we considered to be a wheeled excavator and had taken it off in a new direction. And I thought to myself at the time, that's not dissimilar to what those fine folks at Apple do. They didn't invent the MP3 player, they didn't invent the smartphone, they didn't invent the tablet computer, but they made all three of those things very, very sexy and very desirable indeed. That thought was tucked away in the back of my head until about a year later, I went to the launch of the JCB high-vis dumper. And exactly the same thought went through my head. You know, we've had dumpers for years from Thwaites and Benford and Barford and Uncle Tom Cobley and all. They've always looked exactly the same. And along comes JCB, newcomer to the market, and says, they don't need to look like that. They could look like this. And I thought, there's a book here. They've done it again. So I went away and I wrote probably 85% of that book about how I believe JCB had mastered the art of taking an existing product but making it sexy and desirable. But I asked JCB if they would sit down with me for a bit of a chat so that I could sort of share with them my notion behind the book and various bits and pieces. JCB, being JCB, weren't content with just having me up for a chat. They very kindly decided to put on a guided tour of their innovation centre. And if anyone's been to their innovation centre, they've got a screen that's about 50 foot long, TV screen, and they put up on there various things that they've been working on and stuff. And I was sat with their Chief Innovation and Growth Officer, Tim Burnham, lovely fella, and during the conversation, he said, we've taken a lot of inspiration from Apple, the way that they've taken existing products. And I said, hang on a minute, let me show you something. As part of the preparation for the book, my son Fred had drawn up basically an image for the back cover. I hope you can see this. There we are. As you can see, it is the Apple logo with its familiar chunk missing, and that chunk is being removed by a JCB wheel loader. So I said to the guys, or specifically to Tim, actually, that is very much the nature of the book. That is the tone of the book. It is the fact that JCB has become the Apple of the digger world. Lo and behold, they agreed, they loved it, we went ahead, we published the book, and out she came. The one thing that I didn't mention to them at the time, I drove up from Leafy, Surrey, up to Staffordshire, Uttoxeter, to the JCB World headquarters. And about halfway there, I was involved in a crash. A guy, turns out he was Romanian, not that that's got any impact on it whatsoever, but a Romanian lorry driver came out of the slow lane into the middle lane of the M4, not realising that I was already there. And he did that thing, what is known as T-boning me. Basically turned my car was that way across the front of his truck, and he carried on up the motorway for about 100 yards. Suddenly realised he'd lost power, realised that there was probably a car trapped under his bumper, and that was the only bit that I was scared of, actually, because he started to move over towards the hard shoulder, and I was hoping that he realised I was there, because there was a very real possibility I could have been crushed against the barrier. Thankfully, he did realise I was there. We exchanged details and everything else, and as far as I was concerned, the car was dented. It had a dent in the door and a dent in the door column. I was due at JCB, so jumped back in the car, headed off, got up there and did the interview. And as I was leaving, there's a guy who works there, I can never remember his job title, but he certainly handles the press a lot, a guy called Nigel Chell. Known Nigel for 20 plus years. And Nigel said he would walk me back to the car park. And I said, oh, interesting that we are walking back to the car park. On the way up here, I was involved in a car crash. And he said, are you okay? I said, I'm absolutely fine. I'm unharmed. It was the other side of the car, but no major. We got back to the car, and it was the first time I'd really taken in exactly what the damage was. Needless to say, I drove it home that night, but the car was a complete write-off. It basically bent everything. And I won't repeat exactly what Nigel said when he saw the state of the car, but there was an expletive or two in it, and he couldn't believe I'd actually made it up there. Glad I did, though, because as a result, we produced that book, which Steve Williamson is now the proud owner of. I'll be getting that in the post just as soon as I get his address today. I mentioned my lack of sleep last night. I've been looking at all things artificial intelligence. I wouldn't say it's a minefield, because it is not a minefield. It is an absolutely fascinating subject area. But I spent far too long playing with it last night. And oh boy, the third episode of Tech Foresights is going to be a corker. It's going to take me a while because there's a lot that I need to do for it, but it is going to be an absolute corker. So keep an eye out for that. The second episode, which features, oddly enough, JCB and Tim Burnhope, will be out early in the new year, so look out for that one. Although our patrons over at patreon.com/Demolition News already have access, so if you'd like to get early access to that JCB show, you need to pay, I'm afraid, but only for now. And another week or two, and you'll be able to get it free of charge. Final thing for today, I think, is tomorrow's show. I have about my person. Not literally, it's on my computer. I do have about a half-hour video of all of the various demonstrations that Komatsu did at Bauma 2022. I'm of a mind to do a show, welcome you all to the show, put that up, and then I'll be lurking in the chat, just chatting amongst ourselves while it's going on. We'll have a natter afterwards, and then we can all go our merry way to spend some time with friends and family for Christmas. I will do that assuming nothing else comes up between now and probably 9:30 tomorrow morning, but fingers crossed. I'll be here regardless of what content we have. I'll be here, just a matter of what I'll be able to show you while we are here, if you get what I mean. Right, I need to go and take my good lady Christmas shopping. I'm not going myself, I'm just dropping her off, because when you're as old as I am, you know the tricks of these things. So I'll be back tomorrow, 10 a.m. for the final time this year. Until then, everybody, have a fantastic day. Thank you very much indeed for giving your colleagues a dig in the ribs, John Fitzmaurice. Congratulations to Steve Williamson. If Ken Hatcher is still here, and if he's not here tomorrow, Merry Christmas, Ken. But I wish the rest of you a very Merry Christmas properly tomorrow. Till then, have a great one. All the best.